There we go. All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to our second office hours, How to Drive More G2 Reviews. Your hosts today are myself, Claudia Garcia. I am a product marketing manager here at G2. And then we also have the amazing Rachel Gelbert, who is an associate product manager in our user-generated content team. So if this is your first time joining us for office hours, they are hosted monthly by the G2 product and marketing teams, where we cover a variety of topics in an open forum format. The goal here is to create a space for you, G2's community, to ask specific questions that keep you up at night, or maybe you want to run through specific use cases around a feature that we just recently released, or maybe we just want to talk about G2 best practices. The sessions are supposed to be very casual. We won't talk at you for long. We want to make sure there's enough time at the end for us to have an open discussion, like I said, and for you to ask those questions. So let's get going. We do have some basic housekeeping items. If you have questions, just drop them in the chat or use the raise hand function that Zoom has. The session is being recorded, so you're going to receive a link to the recording and that follow-up email we're going to send out. And with that, let's run through today's topics. We are going to talk through the basics of review collection and why it's so important, just to make sure that everybody has the same foundation. We promise to keep this part short. We're also going to do a quick overview on how reviews impact G2 score methodology, so that you can have a basic understanding of how our best software lists are built or grid reports are built, and maybe help you avoid some of that last minute scramble you get before report season comes around. And then last but not least, we're going to jump into our always on approach, which is something that G2 recently launched alongside our new review collection levers. And this is the part where we're going to talk through why we think this should be a pillar of your review strategy. And with that, I'm going to let Rachel take it away.
Thanks, Claudia. So like Claudia said, I'm not going to spend too much time focusing here. I think, everyone on this call who is a G2 customer, you already know why reviews are so important. But I do want to highlight a couple of things that are important to keep in mind as you're looking to build out your review generation strategy for the year. So the first thing is that 93% of consumers say that online reviews influence their purchasing decisions. I think that, in itself is why reviews are so important, and why it's also important to keep in mind that you want to have enough volume of reviews on your page to give buyers enough content to look at and digest while they're making their purchasing decision. The other thing that's really important to keep in mind is review recency. Recency matters to a lot of people. I think it's kind of, it goes along with this industry of software, how software changes so rapidly. A review from a year ago probably is not going to hold the same weight as a review from 2 weeks ago. In fact, 86% of users actually only look at reviews left in the last 3 months. And so again, it's really important to make sure that you are continuously making sure that you're collecting reviews at all times of the year, not just around certain moments in time or having these huge peaks of volume around reports or different seasonalities. And so just another thing to keep in mind as you look to collect reviews throughout the year. And then the last thing is that 67% of B2B buyers want to see a mix of both positive and negative reviews when checking out a business. It's really important to make sure that all the reviews on your page are both positive and negative, because people look for these types of data points when they're making their purchasing decision to give them context if that product is going to fit their need. An example that we usually talk about internally is with CRM tools. There's lots of CRM tools out there, and a small business company may have had some challenges implementing a CRM tool and getting ramped up and write a review about that. But an enterprise buyer may read that review and think, well, internally, I have resources to help with onboarding and implementation. I know now that maybe this product is a better fit for me as an enterprise customer, rather than maybe it wasn't such a good fit for the small business customer. So that's what we mean when we say positive and negative. This well-rounded mix is really important for buyers to make the contextual or have context, I guess, is what I'm trying to say, when they're reading reviews, to really know that the product they're reviewing is going to fit their need. And now I'll pass back to Claudia, who's going to talk a little bit more about all the things that G2 reviews impact and the methodology with our scores.
Yeah. So all those data points that Rachel just spoke to, they go to show you how reviews are a little bit more nuanced than you might have thought. Let's see how it impacts our methodology. This was a topic that I really wanted to cover here so that you could visualize a tangible outcome from building a solid review collection strategy. So this is all public information. You might feel like I'm going to give you the scoop. I promise I'm not. I'm actually going to drop a link in the chat right now where you're going to be able to see our entire breakdown for the review, the score methodology that G2 uses. But the gist of it is this: recency decay has an impact on our algorithm. So everything that Rachel mentioned around, buyers care more about recent reviews rather than older ones, that has an impact beyond just the buyer perception. The other thing we wanted to touch on is that rating alone doesn't have an impact on our algorithm. It's rating alongside volume. And this is what we call our satisfaction score. The volume is regardless of the rating. So things like, the category pages, grid reports, best software, these are all impacted by the scoring, by your methodology. And if you're thinking about, for example, let's say, your place on the grid, you either want to move up or you want to pass a competitor that you've been going head to head with for a very long time, and you're not quite sure how to pass them, you might want to be looking at these factors right here, because they might be impacting your place in the grid. So I know this sounds like a lot of information, and then there's that whole page that I should share that has, it walks you through how reviews impact our methodology. And you're thinking, okay, this sounds great. I do want to move up on the grid. I want to pass my competitor. I'm not quite sure how that fits into my review strategy. How do I even get started? I know we've been talking about review levers, but what do I do with this information? Well, this is why Rachel's team has been building all those new review collection levers. They were specifically designed to make this process that we're talking about right here, painless, not only for you, but also for the end user. So now I'm going to give it back to Rachel so that she can run you through what does that actually look like for you.
Thanks, Claudia. So when we talk about all the different ways that you can collect reviews, we kind of think of them in two buckets or two different categories. There's automated methods, which we also refer to as our always-on collection strategies, and then the goal-oriented methods, which are some of the traditional methods that G2 offers customers that you guys are all probably familiar with. So I do want to touch a little bit more on the automated methods, because that is some of the newer features that my team has been building over the last year. So what are these automated methods? The first is in-app levers. There's two types. There's our partnership and in-app integration. So those are things like Pendo and Medallia. You may have heard us talking about integrations that we're building in partnership with these other companies so that reviewers can write a review directly inside of your tool or your software. This creates a really great user experience because it's more seamless for the end user. It's frictionless because they can bypass login. On our website, the review form just pops up right away inside your own tool or platform for them to write the review there. And they're in an environment that they probably are more familiar with if they're using your tool for their day-to-day job. If you're not a mutual customer of these partners that we're building integrations with, we also do offer a more like generic API that does the same thing. We refer to that as our in-app review prompt API. And anyone who's a G2 customer today can have access to that. It's another really great way to just have the review writing experience directly inside of your tool or your software. And again, it's a more seamless experience for users to write reviews that way. This is an automated way of collecting reviews because it's continuously running in the background, and it ensures that you are consistently asking your active users or your current customers to write a review. So there's a continuous flow of volume coming in rather than just sending out an email campaign or doing something around, ad hoc at one point of time. These types of methods pair really well, or we actually recommend that you should be using this automated method of collection in conjunction with those goal-oriented methods, which are those targeted email campaigns, a G2 Gives campaign, sending out requests to write reviews around events and conferences. We recommend that to have a well-rounded review generation strategy, you need both of these types of collection methods in order to make sure you're collecting the volume of reviews and having good ratings of reviews, which both impact our satisfaction score. And so on the next slide, I'm just going to touch a little bit more on some of the benefits of these automated collection methods, since these are some of the newer things G2 is introducing, and they may be a little bit less familiar. The first is, like I said, Having something to automate your review ask will help boost review recency and volume. It ensures that your reviews are going to stay fresh, which Claudia already mentioned. Their recency is really important for our algorithm and our scoring methodology. And by going after volume of reviews, you can actually move the needle faster on the grid. And when you're asking all of your current active users to write a review, you're building trust with buyers. The reason is that wider net and collecting all types of reviews, not just specific types of reviews, makes sure that the feedback on your page is authentic, transparent, and unbiased. And that's really what buyers want to see when they come to G2 to look at reviews to make their decisions. I think, in fact, we have a stat that says 82% of buyers actually filter for neutral or negative reviews first, because it really gives them those contextual data points they need to know if the product's going to meet their need. Automated review collection will also ensure that you're gaining deeper product insights, because when you're collecting a well-rounded mix of reviews, you're getting to see all types of feedback. And it's important to remember that, yes, people use G2 reviews for content and for marketing purposes, but this data is also really valuable for your internal product teams as well, to help better understand your customer personas, their needs. Maybe there's some white space of like an area of opportunity for where you could expand based off the feedback that the reviewer is providing. And then the last key benefit is that these automated collection methods are really easy to maintain. Once you set it up, it's truly a set it and forget it feature, and it'll just continue running in the background. There's no need to continuously pull email lists, send those to G2. It's kind of once it's up and running, that's it. It just runs in the background to make sure that you are staying consistent with your review generation. And I think that's all we had for today.
I think we're ready to jump into the discussion slide. I'm actually going to stop sharing now so that we can see everybody here. If we have any questions in the chat, or if you want to come off mute and ask something, or raise your hand first, actually, that'd be great.
Hey, Kevin.
Yeah, so I was wondering, and I came in a little bit late, so apologies if you covered this, but with getting reviews automated and automating that process so you don't kind of have to search and find and do this manual process of getting reviews, what are the methods and best practices one can take to ensure you're getting favorable reviews? Like, obviously you want to get all reviews possible, but you don't want to reach out to an at-risk client or at-risk, renewal customer. So are there best practices in solving for that?
Rachel, you want to take that one?
Yeah, I can take that. So to date, all that we have launched so far are our integrations with Pendo and Medallia, which you do have to be a mutual customer of G2 or Pendo and Medallia to use that. But we also have our in-app review prompt API, which is more generic, that any G2 customer can use that today. So I think that touches on, I don't know if you heard when I was talking about that touches on what we have available today. We do have plans in the future to continue building more partnership integrations to have more coverage with mutual customers, but that's coming later this year. And then the second part of your question about like ensuring that you are kind of like going after the right type of customer, that goes back to why we recommend using these automated methods, which actually are not segmented, to ask all users within your application to write a review, in addition to continue using those segmented email campaigns or those incentivized campaigns that you've probably historically already been leveraging as a G2 customer. The reason is because our satisfaction score has two key components. It's both volume and rating. So if you only collected just 5-star reviews, one, you're narrowing down your scope of people you could ask. And that doesn't move you up as quickly as you probably want to on the grid. Volume plus the rating is what is the bigger needle mover there. So that's why we recommend having automated plus a more segmented approach to ensure you're getting both volume and then also asking people for more favorable reviews that based off information that you know for your end users, if that makes sense. I think the short answer is that our in-app levers that we have today, they're not segmented and they're not incentivized. And those pair really nicely with our incentivized and our segmented email campaigns. You want a well-rounded mix of both.
Yeah. I think something else to throw in there that we were talking about, Rachel, it comes down to the strategy and what you're trying to focus on right now. So if your goal is to, like I was mentioning earlier, pass a competitor, move up on the grid, then we do recommend having that, like, healthy mix of reviews. But if you're trying to tackle your rating, then alongside having that always on collection strategy, having those targeted campaigns is what's going to help you maintain both. That's why we spoke about them in tandem, to make sure that you have them both, because we know that it impacts the algorithm. So we don't want you to focus on one over the other. So thinking about it a little bit more strategic, like, okay, I want to move up my rating, or I want to move up on the grid, or I want to do both. That's where I would recommend you speak to your CSM, walk them through what are the goals that you're trying to tackle right now in regards to your review collection, and they'll give you the recommendation of what levers you want to turn on and what kind of campaigns you want to be running. Alexis, I don't know if you wanted to jump in there and anything else that I might have missed, but
I think you guys actually covered it really well, really holistically. Ask your CSM is always a great response, because they're going to be closer to your goals and initiatives than just a standard blanket answer.
yeah, I know we have another one in the chat right now from Steve. Steve, I can read it out, or if you want to come off mute and okay.
Sure, thank you. Go ahead and read it out, but I think maybe it's available for everyone to read as well. But generally, it's just around the idea of implementing an in-app review method. Obviously, when your users are within the product, they're going to have a different sentiment. Maybe they have a different experience versus being asked to review based on an incentive. So when you're kind of in the mode of working, whether it be a great experience or not so great, how can we create some relevance or context to the questions within that environment, right? Because I feel like maybe the types of questions you would deliver in that experience could be slightly different from perhaps more general review questions off the product or off the platform.
Rachel, do you want me to jump in there? Because I think what you're asking, like, having more contextual questions as they relate to the product when you're asking within the product. Yes.
Yeah, in general, I just feel like the review questions within the product could be different from what we might have on the G2 platform generally, right?
Yeah. So the standard G2 review form that you see on g2.com is a very similar experience to what reviewers will see on the review form in-app. It is a little bit of a shorter version of the form in-app because we have a lot more information about, there's a question on the review form that asks, are you a current user of this tool or of this product? And then if the user says yes, they have to provide a screenshot, which we've gotten feedback in the past that's annoying for people to have to prove that they're a current user. Whereas if they're writing the review in app, we know they're a current user because that's the only way they would see it. So we've removed that question from the in-app version of the review form. But for the most part, all the questions are the same. It is a shorter version of the form, though, that we have worked with our internal stakeholders, especially our data team, around to make sure that the reviews that we're collecting in-app still hold the same amount of weight as they do with the standard review form in terms of our algorithm and reports and the grid and all of that. We also offer custom questions. So every product is allowed to add up to 2 custom questions to their review form that are really specific to your product. I think that might help solve some of what you're asking about. And those custom questions are included both in-app and on the standard form if someone's just writing a review on g2.com. I hope that helps answer. Also, just like as an additional note, when I first read your question in the chat, I thought you were also asking about contextually asking someone to write a review in certain moments of time. So through Pendo and Medallia, if you guys are mutual customers with those partners, they do offer different triggers or filters that you could set up so that you're not just the second someone logs into your tool, right away they're being asked to write a G2 review. It can be a little bit more tailored to say like only ask people that have used my software in the last 30 days, or only ask people that log in up to 3 times a month, like whatever those Pendo and Medallia segments and filters are, those will apply to how you can set up the integration. And then similarly with our generic API that we just offer without having to be a mutual customer of our partner, that's really customized so that you can choose like where in your product that the ask shows up and when it shows up.
Great, thank you. Exactly what I was thinking.
Steve, the other thing I would add in there is if you haven't activated custom questions yet, I would definitely recommend that and reach out to your CSM to get those going for you, because our in-app forms have, what is a 0% conversion rate? Like they don't have, there's no drop off there. So they are
4% abandonment rate.
Abandonment rate. There you go. Look at me using marketing terms, abandonment rate. And then adding your custom questions in there is really going to improve the experience overall. And it's also going to help your product team a lot because you'll be able to be collecting that feedback right there within the app. So custom questions is what I would recommend for sure. Awesome. I know we have another question in the chat before. Asha, I saw you with your hand raised. We're going to get the one in the chat and then we'll go to you.
Okay.
It says here from Jenny. Jenny, I don't know if you want to come off mute or I can read it.
Sure.
Okay, go for it.
Hi guys. So I know we were talking about, I mean, obviously, we'd prefer to have more positive than negative reviews. But you did say, obviously, like having a good mix tells a better story. How much do the negative reviews affect our scoring? I mean, and I know there's the whole scoring methodology thing, and I've actually glanced through that before, but I don't honestly
I can take this
remember.
one. So prior to my current role at G2, I was an enterprise CSM, so very familiar with these types of questions. The short answer is it depends, unfortunately. If you're talking about star rating, if you have a greater volume of reviews, a negative review is going to be less impactful than if you had a smaller amount of reviews and got that negative review. When we're looking at the grid as well, the grid is normalized on the competitors that show up in that category. So there's no like one solution or one equation that we can look at because it depends on who's in your category and how many reviews that they have. So unfortunately, that answer is it depends.
Okay.
But to Rachel's point earlier, the more review volume that you have, the less impactful a couple of negative ones are going to be on that star rating.
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you.
Asha, all yours. What you got for us?
Sweet. I love how you guys organize this, by the way. I am in G2. It's the product I run for our company. So I'm in there like at least 3 hours a day. So this is helpful. I heard one of you guys talk about quote, in-app review prompt API. Could you expand on that and where I find it or how I get to it?
Let me, because I also see Kevin asked, let me put the documentation link directly in the chat. Essentially what it is it's an API that you would have to set up, and then you could literally have the G2 review ask anywhere in your tool. So I've seen a lot of customers, as an example, like if you have a menu in your tool that kind of has, different calls to action. Maybe there's all the different locations within your tool, but then there's also settings and log out. Sometimes customers will, as part of their menu, add a call to action that says, write a G2 review. And then the user experience would be once someone inside of your application clicks that call to action, immediately they bypass login. And they don't have to create an account on G2 if they've never, written a G2 review in the past. And the review form will just natively display inside of your tool or software for the user to write the review directly inside of your tool. So when we say in-app, it's writing a review inside of your app rather than having to, like through an email campaign, the user gets an email with a link. They click the link, they're redirected to g2.com, they create an account and log in, and then they see the review form. The benefits of in-app is that you're bypassing all of those middle steps. So it's a really frictionless experience for the reviewer.
Gotcha. So the API itself is written and we can deploy it, or I go to my dev team and say, hook into g2.com.
So you would probably want to involve your dev team because there's a very small bit of code that they would have to add, but we do offer customer support. So if this is something that your team is very interested in, we can hop on a call with you and kind of walk you through all the steps with your dev team. And it's really easy. It usually takes less than 10 minutes.
Awesome. No, that sounds great. I talked to my account manager and CSM on the reg. Would I be setting up time with them and they would coordinate the internal resources?
Yes.
Okay, super cool.
And I just posted the documentation link.
Perfect. And then just second part of that question is, I know you guys mentioned the two existing services you guys have those relationships with. Do you, is there any roadmap plans to work with Intercom?
No, but that is really good feedback. You know, we're consistently looking for more partners that we could work with to expand the coverage of mutual customers between us and these partners. So if Intercom is something that you're really interested in building an in-app integration with, please, well, I'll take note of that right now, but also like if anyone else on the call has like a partner that they're interested in, just surface that to your CSM and have them pass it along to our product team, because that's really great feedback as we continue to build the roadmap and figure out how many more of these integrations do we want to keep building.
We got a
Cool.
+1 for Intercom on the chat.
Yeah, it came to mind because I'm in a different zone of working with SkillJar to build out an LMS system, and they have a plethora of APIs as well, one of which is Intercom. So it was advantageous in that way. It was like, okay, that's one more reason to like go that route for the thing I'm doing. So it made me think like, yeah, but yeah, super cool. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, of course. We have one more question for Marta in the chat. Marta, I don't know if you want to come off mute, same, or if not, no worries, I can read it out for you.
Sure, I can come off mute.
Awesome.
Alrighty, so what if in-app is not something we want to pursue at our company? So we are going to our contacts, you know, through G2. We have some that are have a remuneration attached. Some are doing it without remuneration. But what's the best practice to get those? We invite to give reviews, to give them. We have a very low success rate currently, and would love to hear from anyone and everyone who has gone through the same thing.
Can I ask what kind of outreach you guys are working on currently?
Oh, you're still on.
Yes, yes. In what way?
So are you doing like G2 Gives campaigns? You're doing G2 like outreach run campaigns? Or are you guys sending the emails yourself? Can you talk a little bit more about what your strategy currently looks like?
Yeah, we're doing both. So we're doing G2 managed campaign where we send the invites directly to G2, and you guys do the follow-up and the reminders and such. And we are also doing tied to something else, directly asking them to just go on our page on G2 and give reviews based on positive feedback they've given us in our interactions
Got it.
with the CSMs.
Got it. So the first thing that I would do, as we talked about earlier, is try and expand that scope of who you're asking. So rather than just segmenting the positive reviews, if you guys are looking to gain volume, you're probably going to have some additional positive reviews and people who either haven't responded or people that you just haven't reached out to in the prior times. And I would also look at defining what other moments in the customer lifecycle journey really matter. So maybe expanding your ask to after onboarding, after customer support tickets have been closed, after any QBRs or EBRs that your account teams have run. Those are some really good ways with people who have a good pulse check on the health of your customer as well, that you can gather reviews that typically have higher conversion rates than the traditional marketing send because it's a little bit more personalized. I would also look at seeing if you can do any plugs in webinars that you guys are running or any events that you are hosting, whether it is online or in person. If you have not explored with Laura, who's our G2 events coordinator of all things G2 events, she will actually do review gathering at specific events for customers. So if you have anything that's coming in the pipe, I would definitely reach out to your CSM and ask her as well.
Thanks so much.
I just saw the comment that Will dropped in the chat. Well, I don't know if you're willing to come off mute and walk us through how your team was trained on G2 and how they now collect reviews. 'Cause
Yep.
that sounds awesome. Yeah.
Very happy to. I might even just see if my camera is, I don't know. There we are. Hello. So with us, we when I took this over 2 years ago, one of the things I inherited was an internal spiff. So we had our own reward system, and we had UTM parameters so that people could do that. And when we included the training team, basically we found out that they were generating way over 80% of all reviews, because we have very, very frequent training events, and there are many people there, and they're all happy at the end of it, and it's a positive experience. And the last thing the trainer says is, if you liked it, you can make me happy by leaving a review. We had to change the spiff because last touch model meant they were getting all the rewards. So now we make it a regional competition between the teams and build it in, which is quite important. But yeah, for us, training changed everything.
That's amazing. So that could be like another touch point, Marta, that you could use. I don't know if that quite fits into how your company operates, but that is a fantastic tactic. Wow, it's very cool.
And we also
Thanks for
noticed,
sharing.
yeah, we also noticed though, before I took it over, that of the organic and G2 sourced reviews, they were sort of 4 stars and below, whereas with the training, that took our star rating right up as well, because it's a personal thing, and they've just come off the back of a very good interactive hour-long or multi-hour session. So the personal touch pays off.
That's fantastic. Thank you, Will. Do we have any other questions in the chat? Let me see. I don't think so. Or anybody else that wants to come off mute and ask anything?
Angela just asked something. Angela, you want to come off mute?
Oh,
Yeah, sure. Hi, everyone. So I am fairly new to my company and to G2 as well. So I'm still kind of figuring out how all of this works. And we did run just an email campaign where we sent out to a select list of customers. So I haven't used the automation feature yet, which I'd like to do. But I'm particularly interested in what Will was just expressing, how to get somebody to come to your in-person event and kind of push people to want to review us on G2. So can you just speak a little more to that and how I can get started on that or reach out to someone for that?
Right. So for us, it was basically identifying which teams were involved with the customers at which stage of the life cycle. And we found out that onboarding implementation is a source of quite a lot of frustration. So we backed off that. Whereas successful support tickets, NPS surveys, good CSM interactions, and especially training, when there's a personal thing, when they're talking live, that made the big difference, because we found that if we would batch and blast, as often as not, we'd catch somebody on a bad day who's just had something, and they would vent on us. And so by passing it through the teams and by incentivizing them with sort of team competitions and some quite good monetary rewards where they could all splash out on it, that also gave them the power to choose which people to reach out to and maybe think, he hasn't had a very good time, I'll stay away from him at the moment. We still get we get plenty of bad reviews organically anyway, which provide really great feedback. There's no denying that, but we're still chasing those 5 stars.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
yeah, thank you, Will. Angela, what I would also add to that is, I know I keep saying this, but do reach out to your CSM and walk them through what you're trying to achieve. The same thing I said earlier. It's very helpful when you give your CSM that feedback or that input of like, here's what I'm trying to do or accomplish this quarter or for the year. Here's where we're lacking. Is it like place on the grid? Is it star rating? Because then they'll be able to give you a customized strategy and recommend what levers you want to activate from the automations, the automated side, and then what G2 focus campaigns you can run. That'll be like the best place to start. Yeah, absolutely. I know we're running up on time.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course, absolutely. I'm going to share my screen one more time. Give me 1 second, guys. before everybody logs off, if you could drop in the chat any recommendation you have as far as like what other office hours topics you would like to see from us, that would be great. We love that feedback. That way we can start planning those sessions from now. But before you go, remember you can watch the recording at G2 University in our website. We also have, again, office hours are monthly, and you can, as always, request a demo from us if you want to see a deep dive of any of the features that we've seen today. But with that being said, again, please, before you drop off, leave us that recommendation on the chat, any office hours topics that you would like to see from us, or if it's just a question, it doesn't have to be a specific topic, please leave it on the chat. But with that, you are all free. Thank you so much for joining us today. We really appreciate all your time, and all of you that asked those questions. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Really appreciate it. We'll see you next month.
Thanks, Claudia. I wasn't sure if this was a full hour, 30 minutes.
It ran, the last one ran over to the buyer intent when like a full hour because of the questions.
This one's blocked for a full hour.
Wait, that's so weird because on my calendar, it's only blocked for 30 minutes.
Oh, that might have been me, my bad. But yeah, it usually runs over. I'll make a note of that for next one. We have them promoted like it's only 30 minutes, but it takes a full hour, which is great. This was so good.
Okay, cool. I'm going to run to my next meeting, but thank you guys, and let me know if there's anything else I could do to help with that feedback or like getting people some more clarity on the questions they were asking.
Yeah, I'm downloading the chat right now and I'll run through those. But thank you all. All right.
Thanks. I'm going to drop.